Welcome to Take Your Medicine podcast. My name is Phil Cowley. I'm a pharmacist of 25 years, and I have learned the best way to learn anything in medicine is to listen to your patients. After 25 years of hearing stories, I thought it's time to start letting everybody else hear these stories. Today, we've got Karalynne Call. She's brilliant. She's an entrepreneur. She's taken her health in her own hands, and most importantly, she's a friend. So today, we're going to go through her story, how she got here, and more importantly, who she took along the way. Thank you so much, Karalynne, for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. The whole idea of you having people on here to hear their stories is fascinating. I'm like, oh, I need to tune in. It is the stories that are so just amazing to listen to.
Well, the thing is in healthcare, we're really good at telling people things, and we're so terrible about hearing what's going on in a person's life. And I found as soon as you take a second to listen to somebody, the whole conversation changes, because most of the time they come in and you come in and say, I'm feeling depressed. And then we just orate to the person. Here's what you have to do. And
Oh, I
at
love that.
some point I thought maybe I should hear what they want to have happen rather
Mm.
than tell them what they should do. And it was amazing the knowledge and wisdom that the patients had. So I really love that listening. I'm like, everybody needs to hear it, but HIPAA makes that hard. I thought, well, if they say yes, then we can talk about anything.
Oh, I love that.
So I do want to talk about your new product that's out really quickly. So Just Ingredients just released an NAD plus complex. And I've been looking for an product for a long time because NAD we know drops substantially as we age. And as it drops, everything that we hate about aging gets worse. But most of the NAD products, they just stop with the nicotinamide riboside. And instead, they did something really cool in this one. They took the copper, part of the nicotinamide, and they put them together. And this is a huge step forward because with our nicotinic acid, which is a vitamin B3 that's activated, we get all of our energy. But when you put it in a copper complex, it starts to stimulate the dimutase that we need in order to stop the antioxidation process. So, Karalynne, this product, your NAD plus complex, is fantastic. Like it's really, really well formulated. Can you tell everybody where they can find it, how they can get it?
Yeah, and you did a great job explaining that. And I'll just tell people you're right with the anti-aging effects. Like if you are feeling those anti-aging effects, especially tiredness and your energy slowing down or even inflammation, joint pain, things like that, this NAD is awesome for it. Even anti-aging with skin. It can even help weight. I mean, so many things, but I am loving it for my energy. I swear by it, just my energy feels so good when I'm on it. So that's what I'm always telling people. Like, if you need more energy, you got to try this. But you can find it at justingredients.us. That's our website.
And then we also can always find you on Instagram, and I'm sure there's a link on there as well. So it's just period ingredients. Is that correct?
Yes, on Instagram. It's
On
just,
Instagram.
yeah, just dot ingredients. So just period ingredients on Instagram. But on the website, it's justingredients.us.
Karalynne has done her homework. If you go to justingredients.us and put in the code Phil's My Pharmacist, you get an added discount. But the best part about the Just Ingredients products is that you can trust them. You can look on the back, pronounce them. You know where they came from. That's the reason why we'll have their protein. And this new NAD plus complex is going to be a game changer. So go to justingredients.us, pick out a product, put in Phil's My Pharmacist, the code, save some money, but most importantly, feel good about what you bought and good about what's put in your body. Perfect. All right. So your story, I love your story. I've heard your story so many times because I listen to it every time it gets better because you have new things you bring in, everything else. But the part I really love is when you talk about your husband. So I wanted to start because, I'm a husband, so I like that part. Where I want to start is how did you meet your husband? I want to start. I love hearing how people meet. Like it's always these almost like it's beyond fortuitous. So,
Well, this is sort of funny. We met at Brigham Young University at school, but I was in a math major. That's what I majored in. And I was studying math out at the pool. And he saw me studying. And so he came up to me and he was like,
was it
oh,
the math book or that you were sitting by the pool that you think that hadn't come over?
uh, not the math, probably not the math book. Probably that was by the pool. But he saw that as a math book and came up and his line was, Oh, I'm studying or I'm in a statistics class and really struggling in the statistics class. Looks like you know math and things. Maybe you could help me. And I guess I looked up at him. I don't remember this. This is terrible, but I guess I looked up at him and said, "Yeah, whatever," and went back to my studying of my math. And so we lived at the same apartment complex. And every time he saw me, he was like, "Oh, there's that girl that wouldn't even give me the time of day and wanted nothing to do with me, basically." And so, long
Well, to
story
be fair, he could have done better on the line. I gotta be
yeah,
honest, like, that was
exactly,
you know what I mean? Yeah, you saw that one coming, so
exactly. So, I guess I was this person for months that he just stayed away from. And long story short, I then became really good friends with one of his roommates who I actually liked. And I would go over to visit his roommate and got to know Jeff better. And as I started to get to know Jeff, then Jeff and I started dating rather than his roommate. And so, but it took months after that first pickup line for this to all happen because he was not happy with me. So,
but that's sometimes, like, to work for it a little bit more is better because it's not that it takes
right?
its while. You have to make, like, a sourdough bread so much better than a white bread, even though it takes so much longer to
Right?
make, right?
True. Great analogy.
So, I met my wife here at USU, and we got married in 4 months. How long? Because
Oh,
okay, we have to
wow.
ask because you are at BYU. How long did you guys date before you got married?
So we actually dated, we were dated a year before we got engaged, and then it was about 18 months before we got married because I was determined to graduate college first before I got married. I don't know why. It was just one of these things. I did not want to be married in college. And so I graduated the last weekend in April, and the first weekend of May, we got married. So I did wait until after I had graduated. So
There
it
you
just was
go. So,
that I
in
didn't want to
BYU
rush
terms
into it.
that's like 10 years, just so everybody
Right?
out there understands, like, that's a long time. So you were married for a while. First kid, how long did you wait till the first child?
Well, this is what's crazy is, my older 2 sisters deal with infertility or dealt with infertility quite badly, and so it took them years and years to get pregnant and, needed help to get pregnant, and so after a year of being married, I was like, "We have to start trying because it's gonna take years, and I can't go to the infertility doctor till we tried for a while." Well, first month trying, we were pregnant. So a year after being married, I got pregnant.
So I want to twist right now because you brought it up. It's funny how many people have fertility issues, and the first move is, "Let's do all these procedures." After all of your 18 years plus of everything that you've got going on, is your take on infertility a little bit different now than it used to be?
So different, so different. But back then when I was first married, I had no idea about health and nutrition. I just was, regular eating American standard diet, thought whatever was sold on the store shelves was great to eat. Didn't understand how to nourish my body, things like that. I thought if you had infertility, then you just tried for a year and then went and saw an infertility specialist and did IVF or something else, and now it's completely changed.
Right. And so what because we dealt with a lot of infertility ourselves. And, initially I jumped into the system. And when you keep being told you can't have a baby, it kind of crushes your soul, even if you
Yeah.
didn't really know you wanted one. That's the thing that's always strange. Is like you didn't know you didn't want one, you tried, you couldn't have it. Now it becomes the most important thing in the world. And considering some of the new documentation that's out there with all the hormone disruption, and I'm going off a tangent here because I'm going back to your
Yeah.
story, but one of the big pushes that Just Ingredients has had is we've gotta stop disrupting all these hormones.
Yep. Yeah. So one thing is the endocrine disruptors in all of our beauty products, like you said, is truly messing with our hormones. And then the other thing is inflammation causes such a problem with infertility, and inflammation has a lot to do with our lifestyle factors, but also our diet. And then we know, of course, like blood glucose levels play a huge role in PCOS, and PCOS is on the rise, has skyrocketed, and that's due to different factors, but a main factor is the blood glucose levels and these inflammation levels. And so, yeah, if I were dealing with infertility now as somebody, I would first look at my diet, my glucose levels, my lifestyle factors, my beauty products. I would first do that, then see a specialist.
It's funny because I always look at it, if people were a herd of cattle, you wouldn't treat each cow different. You'd start looking at the whole herd and say, "What's going on to the herd?" And you'd start looking at key things within the herd. And
Yeah.
what you're talking about is, yes, there always are people that have problems, and we went through the whole thing. And anybody that's going through infertility stuff, there's part of me just wants to go up and give them a hug and tell them it's gonna be okay, because like, it is the hardest thing in the world, but we start looking at this hormone disruption and the fact that PCOS is almost doubled in 10 years, like, it's insane, and later onset PCOS is really starting to confuse people because insulin resistance, changes inside the uterine wall starts changing the way our endocrine system works, all of it's tied so much together. So, if we start looking at the commonality, it's food sources has to be playing in it, as well as all of the musks and everything else and then that we have inside of our products.
Yeah, it's true. And infertility is, I use the same analogy with infertility as I do like depression or cancer or really any chronic health issue. And the thing is, it's like if a house were on fire, you wouldn't put just one tiny little hose on the house and hope that that would take care of it. You would bring on multiple hoses coming at the fire at all different angles to, try to get that fire out. And I feel it's the same way with infertility, depression, cancer. They all have different root causes. They all have different reasons why this has happened. But let's not just put one little hose on it. Maybe let's call that the specialist. Let's put lots of different hoses on it coming at different angles, such as the food, the nutrition, the endocrine disruptors, the lifestyle factors, the alternative medicine, but then also Western medicine or doctors, the specialists. You know what I mean? It's just, we got to bring all those factors when we're trying to heal.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to run your car and you're like, "Okay, I'm only gonna use 2 cylinders even though I have 4." It's kind of a
Yeah.
weird mindset that we have. I 100% agree with that, and we have brought up depression, so I wanna kinda go through the first baby, everything went good, you guys are blissfully happy, and you're in California at this time, is that right?
We were, yeah. No, actually, we're in Utah. Sorry, we moved like 9 times in 11 years, so it's hard to keep it all straight. But we were in Utah at that time.
Aren't those fun years? Like, I always look back at those years when we were 4 and we were starting out, but we didn't know, and, like, you just come home and just it was just those times where you look back and they're like they set these core memories of just, it makes everybody smile when they think of that time when they're just so young and
Mhm.
everything's fine. You have no idea that right around the corner, the darkness is waiting for you, that you have to,
Right,
like, fight your way through and learn and grow.
right, exactly.
So, you have the one child, everything seems to be fine, you're feeling like yourself, is that
Yep. And then had a second one and
and everything's
same.
still good, you're like, "Okay, this
Yep.
is me, everything's happy,"
Yep.
and
Then a
then we go to number
third.
3. What happens after number 3?
So I actually felt fine afterwards. Like, your typical, you might have some baby blues or whatever, but nothing. Like, I mean, I felt pretty good. But when he was over a year, that is when my depression actually really kicked in. And what was hard is back then they would say, when I went to the doctor, they'd say, "Oh, your baby's over a year, so it's not postpartum."
Don't you
And
love
so,
how they had, like, these things, like, they wanna categorize you, throw you in the box and
right,
be done, so
right. And looking back, I don't know if it was necessarily postpartum there. Well, I should just tell the story. I dealt with this depression for a good year plus, and I don't know how many know the story, but I just was tired and I was going to these doctors asking for help, saying, "I haven't always felt like this. Something happened. I want to know how to heal from this." And they would all say, "Well, we don't know how to help you heal, but we can give you an depressant." And I'd say, "Well, will that antidepressant heal me?" And they would say, "No, it will just help your symptoms, but it won't heal you." And I'd say, "Well, what can heal me?" And they would say, "We don't know." Granted, this was 18, 19 years ago. If you have a doctor today who says that, I say say thank you very much for your time and leave and go find a new doctor because we know so many things that contribute to depression these days.
see, that's really important, like, that is the key to this podcast. I'm gonna come back and make sure you finish your story, but the key is empowering people because they feel so weak in a doctor's office, they said, "Well,
Mhm.
that's what he said, we have to go." So, listening to you to say, "I love everything you do. You're a fantastic doctor for what you do." Shake their hand and say, "Okay, I'm gonna go find somebody else." People don't understand how empowering that is to have that advice from you. So I appreciate that so much. Like, it's something people need to hear.
Well, because those doctors I was going to, maybe they were awesome at delivering babies. Maybe they were awesome at C-sections. Maybe they were awesome. I went to all different types. Maybe some were great with, some other condition. Maybe depression just wasn't their thing. So you've got to find a doctor that has done the research, know, and fits with what your need is. So
Ye
anyways, that was my frustration is I was going for over a year to these doctors. No one had any advice on how to heal. And I kept dealing with this depression. The depression was getting worse. People would say, like, hold on, look for the light at the end of the tunnel. And I would literally be like, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. Like, this is pure misery. I'm not myself anymore. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. There's days I didn't eat, couldn't even do my normal tasks of like wanting to get dressed or feed the kids. There were days I couldn't feed the kids. There was days I just wanted to be in bed. I mean, I experienced all the different emotions of depression because depression goes through all of those different symptoms. And so I was dealing with all of them. And one day I just had it. Through this 18 months of having this, I had multiple times of just thinking, I'm not worth anything on this earth. Like, I need to just end my life because these kids don't deserve a mom like this. They deserve someone better. Oh, I'm going to cry talking about it.
No, I mean, I
And
want you to because I there's a point in 2020 where I slumped. I was in the pharmacy, it was going under, and I thought my value was nothing more than I could produce, and I literally slumped down on the ground.
yeah,
Like, I was sitting on the floor, and it's pharmacy floors get dirty fast, and my wife came and picked me up, like, she just knew and she came. So your story resonates with all of us, the feeling of worthlessness. We have to
yeah,
normalize the idea that happens to everybody, and you have to reach
yeah,
out. So I
yeah.
love your story because of that part alone.
Yeah, it was hopeless, and I felt like I was a terrible wife. My husband was stuck dealing with this, person that he didn't choose to be with at first. I'm completely different of not being able to even take care of myself or the kids or deal with life. And so I just one day felt totally hopeless, like you said, because the doctors weren't giving me any hope that there was anything to heal from this. So I thought I was doomed with this for the rest of my life. And so I actually attempted suicide. And thankfully, by the grace of God and by miracles, the attempt failed. But that was my wake up call of I have hit complete rock bottom. There is no further bottom than trying to take your life. And so at that point, that's when Jeff really got on board to help me because I don't think he realized the severity of it until then. And we were dedicated to finding a doctor that would help me, and I wasn't gonna give up until I found a doctor, and it did take 2 more years of looking for a doctor that could help me, and finally I found a doctor 2 years later who said, and I should say at this point, I did go on antidepressants, and so I don't have anything against antidepressants, but for me, I wanted to heal, and I knew antidepressants were life-saving at the moment, but not something I wanted to be on my whole life.
They're a useful tool. I actually believe everything is a tool in the toolbox,
Right.
and tools should be used for the right time and the right amount. But if you're using your vice grips as a hammer, you're never gonna fix anything. And so I love how people, when they talk about combining it the way that you talk about combining it and saying, "Okay, I was dedicated." We talk a lot about doing hard things, and we preach about telling everybody you can do hard things, but when you've done hard things, you kinda wish I didn't have to do those. I'm glad I'm where I'm at, but boy, I wish I coulda learned that another way. And so I love the way you talk about it because 'cause you're like, you were dedicated at that point, you're gonna do this. And I know you're a runner and I'm a runner. We both know you have to power through mile 3 so you can get the bliss at mile 6. And so I
Exactly.
love your story because I can just hear a runner in it every time I do it. I'm like, "Okay, that second mile is so hard." But so
Yeah.
you go to this doctor, she says, "Hey, this isn't gonna be easy. You gotta be dedicated to it." And
Yeah,
it took a while, right?
it did. I love that she said, "Okay, are you willing to work? Because there's no magic pill for this. This isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take a lot of work on your part." And I was like, "Yes, I am so desperate. I will do anything just because wanted the help so badly." And back then, we didn't have the internet to just Google, like, what can you do naturally for depression or what can help? There wasn't that. You had to go to a doctor or read it from a book or find some course about it.
And
And so,
misinformation was tough because you would get in there, you talk to somebody, you'd be all in, but you couldn't fact check anything. So I
right.
love how dedicated you were.
Right. And so she taught me that depression was just your body screaming for help. Your body can't verbally speak to you, so it's going to speak to you through symptoms. And so she was like, we just need to figure out what your root cause is, what they are, and what your body's trying to tell you. And so we did some blood work, we did urine. testing, some saliva testing, did a whole variety of testing, and found out a ton of things that were going on, everything from little things of like being low in magnesium and low in vitamin D and not methylating B vitamins, not absorbing B vitamins well, to other things of like food intolerances, my cortisol off, my liver having some issues. Like the list just went on and on. And so she was like, no wonder why your body isn't performing its best. It's because it's not feeling its best. Like it needs to be nourished its best so it can do its best for you. And so she was like, we're going to help you, get all these levels back up and your hormones back balanced and different things. And it's going to take work and time. And I went on this journey with her. So after a year of working with her, then we started tapering off my antidepressants. And at 18 months of working with her, I was able to be off antidepressants. And ever since that point, I've never gone back on them because I've just learned how to fuel my body properly and keep it, yeah, fuel my body properly so that my body in return can do its best for me.
And that's where this all came from. Now I'm gonna toot your horn for you because I've looked it up. You guys are, like, in the top 5, maybe the top 3 fastest growing companies in Utah right now. So you've gone from this moment when you had 3 little kids that felt overwhelming and you felt hopeless, and you keep pushing and pushing because this is such an important message to you. But I want to give you your kudos because that's not easy either. Like, you get to a point, you're like, "I'm so tired. I would love to have a few days off." It's like now you ran from
Yep.
whatever you're at to come to do my podcast, and I'm sure that you've got something behind it. Um, so I wanna make sure everybody understands that you're still striving to make life better, not only for you, but for everybody around you.
Oh, you're nice. Well, thank you. There are days that I do want to give up. There are days that I wonder, is anybody even listening to anything I'm saying? Is this a waste of my time? But then honestly, I feel like I'm still meant to do this, like educate, because every time I get discouraged like that, I will get the most incredible DM of someone saying, like, I've been trying to get pregnant for 8 years and we just found out we're pregnant, but it's after 2 years of changing my lifestyle and following you and doing the things that you've said. And they'll say like, "You're the first person I've told, so don't tell anyone yet, but we were just so excited we wanted to tell you." Or, a cool story about someone healing from depression or something. So sometimes I always think and I get discouraged and overwhelmed and exhausted. I want to quit the business. I think God sometimes just gives me a nice little like reminder of a
I call it a kick in the butt. I had one on the plane the other day
exactly.
because I was on the plane and I was headed off to someplace again, and I thought, "I just wanna be at home with my kids. I wanna just go on a hike." And then the stewardess, the flight attendant stopped and she goes, "I know who you are, and I wanna just say thank you." And I said, "All I did is tell you to take B-vit." She's telling me the whole thing. I'm like, "I really don't need much credit. All I said is that there's a huge amount of people who can't methylate B vitamins, and that'll
Right.
give you 10% better energy." And it's just kind of one of those things where it just gives you that little kick in the butt saying, "Just keep going.
Keep going. Yep.
The
That's
path is
true.
hard, but you're on the right way." And so I do wanna ask you real quick, raising your kids through this whole journey, 'cause you have 3 boys, is that right? And you have
Yeah,
6 kids total, right?
yeah, I have 6 kids now, so 4 boys and 2 girls.
So we have 4 boys. Raising your kids through all of this journey, all of it, right? Have you found that they look at you as someone who can succeed? Like, you find, because 'cause I'm finding with my children that they watch us so closely, and it became so important to me to show my kids that they can do things. Every time I wanna quit, I look at my kids and I said I would never let them quit. That I'm gonna keep pushing on this journey that's not easy. Eating the way that we should eat, telling people to do it, you have a lot of pushback in life. And so
Yeah.
for me, I find my kids really make me stay on task.
Yeah, they've learned that 1, it's you gotta work hard in life, but 2, I think what they've learned from me doing this is to stand up for something they believe in, because that's something we talk about a lot, because I get those haters on Instagram just like anybody does. I get these haters, I get pushback, I get people telling me you can eat just whatever you want. It's not that big of a deal. I have food scientists and manufacturers tell me, no, 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 all the time. No, you can't make that. No, you can't produce that. We can't manufacture that. And I keep just, yes, we can. And yes, this is what I believe in. And I'm going to stand my ground on this. And my kids have seen that. So I think what they've learned is, yeah, you got to work hard in life. And 2, stand up for what you believe in and stick to your, you know, guns about it.
Jeff's has had a journey along this way too, because at the lowest point, he was out of work or just recently lost his job, and you're at that time, your boys were fairly young. I know that the 7-year-old I heard later that, like, 7-year-old was a little harder to make changes with, so I know they were really young at the time.
They were young, and yeah, so when people tell me they can't live a healthy lifestyle on a budget or it's too hard because it's too expensive, I always wanna just try to teach them what I was going through. Because when I was trying to heal, we did have these little kids, and Jeff had quit his job to well, his company had been bought out, and so not his company, the company he was working at, so then he lost his job, so then he tried to start his own company, which took all of our savings, all of our retirement. The company did not do well, and then he was out of work. And so we literally were living off of such tiny amount of money. And but yet that was during my healing process as well. And when I was working with my doctor, she would say things like, you need probiotics. Your gut needs probiotics. And I'd say, well, I can't afford probiotics. So give me a cheaper option. And she'd be like, well, go buy some kimchi at the store and every morning eat a spoonful of kimchi. And that's going to be your probiotics, you know? And so, yeah, it was a hard time financially, but we learned how to live a healthy lifestyle on a really tight budget. And actually, if you do it right, living a healthy lifestyle can be cheaper than buying all of those individual prepackaged ultra processed snacks. And so the fruits and veggies are actually way cheaper than that other stuff.
Because when you make real food at home, you have leftovers and you have stuff for the rest of the day. When you open a Twinkie, you open another Twinkie and then you go through them really quickly. And so I 100% agree. And I also think, and you can jump in here at any time, but I think that when you have really tight times with money and you really are working together as a team, that creates a bond between you and your husband and you and your kids that gets you through the hardest times. And so a
It's
lot of
true.
times people who are if you can go into that together rather than just throw money at it, you're so more dedicated to the person you're next to
Yeah,
that
we've
it
gone through some hard times. That's true. And it does. It makes you bonded together.
and that bond, I think, is just so important on the journey that people have with their healthcare. See, that's the one thing I do see is every time somebody goes into a medical type issue that just takes them to a low point, they always have those people in their life that they know they can count on. And how important is that, especially in depression?
Yeah. And you know what? You need to find that one person or a lot of people say like, "Oh, you need to find your circle of people that are gonna help you through cancer or depression or, infertility, whatever it may be." And I tell people that I didn't have that circle of friends and circle of help, and that's okay, but you do need to find that one person. That one person, whether it's a friend, a family member, a community member, a church member, somebody, because I feel like you do need that one person to help you, and Jeff was my one person that helped me.
It's you have to have that person you can just be weak with.
Yeah.
And the best part is when you become that one person for somebody else. Like, that's even better. Like, you get somebody as yours, but you're like, "I need to be that person that no matter what they say, no matter how angry, when they lash out, everything, I'm just gonna be there and they can be weak with me." And I know that
Yeah.
you've become that for a lot of people, and it's shown people a lot of ways to be like, "Okay, I can be weak, and then I can be strong for someone else." And I love that about your whole brand and the way you do things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, being a caretaker or that one friend, it's hard. It's really hard because you have to be a listening ear, but sometimes help with the advice, sometimes make the choices, but also be compassionate and patient at the same time, forgiving. It is a hard thing for sure. But then I feel like life is a cycle. We're all going to have, our good times, our hard times, you know what I mean? And so when I had my dark points, my low points. Jeff was a caretaker. And I feel like now, hopefully, I've learned from the darkness and learned from those hard times and can help others.
Absolutely, and I love this story because we start out in such a fun, happy place. We start out by the pool with a math book. We go into having the house, the birds are chirping, the blossoms are on the tree, you've got the little kids running around, and then life happened.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people at that point, that's that point when they need to have hope, and you're bringing that hope because you went from that point, and then you found your way out of it, and now you're a tremendous success. You've got 6 kids who, by the way, every time I see them on your Instagram and that, they're all so shining and happy, and you've come full circle. If you had to give advice to someone, the very first thing that they would cut out of their diet, or just I want you to pick out the one. So some people it's read 40, some people it's whatever. I want to start with one because it's so important that we don't try to make huge change. We change 1% at a time until we get to where we go. What is first thing you say, okay, look, just cut this one thing out? What is your, because right now I'm worried about the hydrogenated bromine inside my Mountain Dew. Like honestly, it's like freaking me out. Everybody has their little thing. My wife, she's a perfume girly, and now I brought up the musks, and so it's like freaking her out. We all have one thing that we start looking at. What is your thing saying, go look at this?
I'm laughing because I get asked this question like every single day, and everybody hates my answer because my answer, I'll tell you why you're going to hate my answer because I never say what not to look. I mean, like what thing to take out immediately. I always say if it's my very first thing, then my very first thing is let's add in fruits and veggies. And
Oh,
so I'll say, like, just look at your breakfast. Do you even eat a fruit or a veggie with your breakfast, or are you just eating scrambled eggs? Okay, let's add an apple there or a banana there. Okay, at lunch, are you having any fruit or a veggie? Okay, same thing. Do we need to add an apple or a banana there? At dinner, does it look like? So I'm starting with let's first add in more fruits and veggies because it's going to give us the fiber that we need that is so good for our gut to feed the good microbiome. It's got our antioxidants, our vitamins, minerals, you know what I mean? And so, but then if we're adding that and focusing on that, then maybe it will eliminate or move aside some of those ultra processed foods. Because instead of at lunch grabbing for that ultra processed package of cookies, we're focusing on, shoot, I need to add a fruit or veggie in to my lunch. So I'm going to have an apple with some peanut butter instead.
it's amazing what happens when you eat something else too, because your body is fine with it. You've had this pattern of going to those things like your protein. I know that I really love your guys' protein because it's really, really protein. It doesn't have anything else in it. So the just ingredients protein, my wife loves it. It really is a great protein and it tastes good.
Thank you.
And it's funny how you can just do little things of rather than getting that box of protein shakes that's the cheapest and say, "Okay, let me just try something different," and you'll find not only you feel better, but you're really not spending that much more because you're feeling that much better.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so I always end my podcast with 2 things. First of all, tell everybody how to find you, and everybody needs to go find you. So what's the best way to find you and get your products? It's been an amazing journey for you and everything you have. I can tell you right now, you'll never feel bad about what you put in your body if you buy just ingredients. You'll never look at it and think, "Ah, I shouldn't have." But,
Thank you. I appreciate
honestly, and so where can they find your products? Because I would say if you wanna start someplace, one way is easy, is just order one product you can trust and feel the difference.
Thank you. Yes. So, like you said, our protein powders are made with just real food ingredients. And that's how we're different than others out there because a lot of them are made with different natural flavorings, artificial things. We actually flavor with real food. So, our strawberry is actual strawberries crushed up and put in there, and guava mango electrolytes. It's real guava, real mango, things like that. So, that is how we're different. And like I said earlier, you can find us at justingredients.us or the Instagram is just.ingredients, or I have a podcast as well called Just Ingredients. And so just type in Just Ingredients and you'll find us.
So, you and Jeff have now been married how many years? Can I ask?
Yes, 28 years.
28 years.
We're getting old.
What are we at now? I know we're over 25. I think we're at 26. I have to go check and see. But my wife forgets more than I do, so I get away with it because she forgets more than I do. So you and I, we're the same. We're like right there. So when I started all the social media, when I did everything, my goal, when somebody said, "What do you really want out of this?" I want to make the world 1% kinder. That's just what I
Oh,
want.
I love that.
Because we can't make major changes, but we can. So I always send off by saying, go find somebody and give them a hug that needs it. Go text somebody that needs to be told something. If you could make just the suggestion to people of how they can make the world just 1% kinder. So no huge things. What is your 1% you would tell people to do?
Oh, I love that. Okay, before I tell you that, that reminds me of Mr. Rogers' quote. Do you know his quote that goes along the lines of the first way to be successful is to be kind. The second way to be successful in life is to be kind. And the third way to be successful in life is to be kind.
Absolutely. Then
So,
you flip your shoe because Mr. Rogers never did anything unkind. Like he lived his whole life kind. And I don't know how you do that. There's not one He actually is one of those people that I wish I could be like. I love
Yeah.
that quote. Okay,
Yeah. I
so
love
what
that.
is your 1%, just that little thing you can do to make the world a little kinder for people out there, anybody?
Do you know what? Oh, there's so many different things that I could answer with, but I'm going to tell you this. So, the last month has just been really hard at work and hard with things. And last night I was doing a lot of reflecting like, what is so hard and why haven't I felt like there's so much joy in the work that I do and so much happiness, but lately it's just been like stuck in the trenches. You know what I mean? And I've missed that joy and that happiness. And I was like, why is that? And I was like, oh my gosh, I know why. Every morning I used to, but for the past month, I just got busy and didn't. Every morning I used to start the day with a prayer saying, please bless me just to do one thing nice today, one thing kind, one thing that would help one person. And I got away from doing that for a month and I felt the difference because if you say it in the morning and help and ask for that help in your prayer, meditation, or affirmations, whatever you're doing, then your mind just thinks about it throughout the day and you'll be like, "Oh, maybe I could speak to that person a little bit kinder, or maybe I could compliment this person on this thing, or maybe I needed to go serve or do something, whatever it may be, but it's constantly on your mind without you really knowing it's on your mind. And so I woke up this morning again thinking, okay, what is one thing that I could do nice for somebody else today? And that can be really simple. It can be a smile, it can be a compliment, like I said. So if you
It's just
just start
focusing
your,
on it.
it is just starting your morning thinking, okay, what's one thing I could do kind for someone or nice for someone today? Bless me that I can find that person to affect.
Where the head looks, the body follows.
Oh, I love that.
That's a surfer. Surfers always told me. That's
Oh,
where I got it from. My kids were learning how to surf. He's like, if you look down, you fall down. If you look up, you go where it goes. Look at the beach, you'll go where you need to go. And I don't think he was being like a philosopher. He was telling me how to not fall off a surfboard. But immediately I realized just what you said. Where the head looks, the body goes. And you have done so many kind things and you've helped a lot of people. So I'm telling everybody now, if you're not already, Just Ingredients is something you need to go look in, go peruse it all. She has put days, years of her life in it, and you can see that she surely cares about all of it. Karalynne, thank you so much for your time, and this
thank
has
you,
been
Phil.
so much fun. Thank you so much.
So fun. And thank you for your kind words because you're out there trying to educate others and how to feel healthy, more healthy in life too. So thank you for what you do as well.
No problem at all. This has been Take Your Medicine podcast. I'm Phil Cowley, your host. We have had Karalynne Call with us today from Just Ingredients, and it has been a complete pleasure. If you have a chance, subscribe so you can get noticed when the podcast comes out.